Welcome to the showcase of student perspectives on the award-winning documentary, A Bridge to Justice, The Life of Franklin H. Williams.
I didn't hear about Franklin H. Williams until I heard about the documentary.
I think he was a very empowering person, definitely a hidden figure.
He wanted things to be fair and just. He was a bridge figure.
Somebody who has done a lot for civil rights.
I am Lynn Nicolas-Brewster, Executive Director of the Franklin H. Williams Judicial Commission. Today we will chat with several thoughtful and engaging young students who have viewed the documentary and who have come to know a civil rights pioneer who until now was a footnote to history. We will explore what justice, civic engagement, and advocacy mean to them. The film began with a quote, "We must not stop now. A nation that has come so far must not now give up the struggle to rid itself of racism." How did that quote impact you? And what does that mean to you, that we must not stop now?
Despite massive leaps of progress in the fight for civil rights and the fight for justice, racism still exists. What I think we have to do is work every day to move beyond that. Because if we work every day to make things better, we can.
Our society, just because we have the bare minimum, does not mean that we are done. There is always going to be something that you can work on. There's always going to be something that you can make better.
How do we combat racial hatred and intolerance?
It's important to have those conversations about race issues or any issues really that are prevalent in the world right now.
Teach kids more of history, because lack of knowledge will be disastrous.
Listen to what other people have to say. Just sit down and really just get to know a person of another race.
Those conversations where you're most uncomfortable are usually the most important.
How important is education in addressing racism and racial hatred?
Racism is something that you can't hide from. You can't bury your head in the sand and just hope that it's going to go away.
As the old saying goes, those who do not learn from the mistakes of the past are doomed to repeat it.
Children need to learn about all of history and learn about the people who are different from them, and that's what's going to bring more people together, and that's what's going to help us to reach a point of equity and equality.
Once you know the history of it, it can really help you create a strategy on how to address it.
What can leaders today learn from Franklin H. Williams with respect to working together, connecting with one another, and building our future?
I think that leaders today can really take that lesson from the idea of building communities, building connections between people, because in our current political climate, it's very divisive, it's very ideological. People are it's very like teamy. Like people will support this team, like the blue team or the red team, dare I say.
Even if you may not 100% agree with someone, you still need to talk to them. You still need to sit down and have a conversation and try and open their mind and your mind as well.
What advice would you give to your younger self about growing up in America and addressing issues of racism and racial intolerance?
Speak up and say something, because if you're quiet, nothing's gonna happen. Like, there will be no change made if I don't use my voice, if I don't speak up.
Not to get angry and to lash out, but to sit back and understand and just have like a talk.
Have an open mind. Don't have an ethnocentric point of view, that we are all people. It shouldn't matter what you look like.
If Franklin were here today, would he say that there's still a need to have a commission dedicated to these issues of promoting racial and ethnic equity in the courts?
I think he would definitely be proud with what the commission has done so far.
I feel like he would say we made some sort of progress because some change has been made.
He probably would be proud that there's definitely things being done and it hasn't just stopped, you know.
As a lawyer for the NAACP, he fought for justice, he fought for civil rights. And I think he would see that we're still fighting, despite many attempts by people across this country to reverse that progress. I think he'd also understand that we're not perfect. We're not as far along as we need to be to solve these problems. And I think he'd understand that it's a work in progress, because that was what his life was dedicated to, was to this work in progress, was to civil rights.
But I think that he would believe there's definitely still a need for there to be a commission, because there's so much more work that needs to be done.
As long as we're moving forward, you know, everything can be better, but nothing can be perfect.
We recently saw the first African-American woman, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, who was appointed to the U.S. Supreme Court. We also saw within New York State, we had the second African-American woman appointed to the highest court of this state, the New York State Court of Appeals, Judge Shirley Troutman. Why is that important for young people to see women of color, young men of color, you know, diverse people in these positions?
You can't be what you can't see.
If you see like more people of color in courts, that'll show children of color that they can do that it is possible.
Seeing someone of your background do something tells you that you can do whatever you want to do.
Why is jury diversity and service important?
It promotes fairness and equality.
I don't want to go in the courtroom feeling like I don't have a fair trial or I'm not respected because of the color of my skin.
You need to have different perspectives and different ideas from all different types of people in order to come up with a just solution.
What would you say to young people who feel, I can't make a difference, after having watched this documentary and seeing the impact that Franklin H. Williams has made?
So you don't need to be Martin Luther King. You don't need to be Rosa Parks. You can be someone who works behind the scenes and get a lot done. You don't need to be out front, having a podium, speaking to thousands of people. You can be someone who works in the sidelines and who does little things to try and combat racism.
And it's not all about the glory. You could be out here helping the community, doing great things.
I don't think that we should ever get comfortable where we are. You know, we have definitely come so far, and yeah, the progress is there, and it's good that we can see that, because it's like showing that our voices are being heard.
Letting young people know they have a voice is important.
One way you can advocate is voting, participating, and, you know, bringing awareness to the situation and sharing it out. And in that way, you know, everybody could have a chance to figure out a solution.
Imagine if more people knew about Franklin Williams, how inspired they would be. Personally, I'm more inspired to make a difference.
The Franklin H. Williams Judicial Commission has existed for over 30 years and remains a permanent fixture in the New York State court system, with the unwavering support of every individual who has had the honor to serve on the commission and by the chief judges of the court. On behalf of the Unified Court System, the Franklin H. Williams Judicial Commission, and WNED PBS, I would like to express our deep appreciation to the students who offered their time, their thoughts, and their fresh perspectives. The documentary, A Bridge to Justice, The Life of Franklin H. Williams, not only spans the racial divide, but the generational divide in the slow but steady climb towards the promised land of justice and equity.